Alex has got a game for you to play at home. All you have to do is watch the disc with the white spot. Where is it? In the middle? No, you've just been caught by one of the oldest tricks in the book. The Monty.
The Monty scam dates back hundreds of years from the Mississippi riverboats of the Old West to the modern-day streets of New York. And it's an excellent example of a scam that has genuinely stood the test of time.
The big secret of the Monty scam is that it's 10% sleight of hand and 90% teamwork.
When people see a Monty game being played, they usually don't realise that it's actually a gang that is doing the scam. It's not just the man, the operator, throwing the discs. The Monty game is designed to separate a fool from his money.
Our three hustlers have come to the seaside to perform the Monty scam for our concealed cameras and to teach us the tricks behind this classic con. Even though the Monty is illegal, it is still played by hustlers all over the UK today. Our team have engaged the services of some local hustlers to help them out. They'll all be looking for a wealthy target, known as the Mark, to play the game. This passerby seems interested. He's their man. He's the Mark. Unknown to him, everyone else playing the game is in on it.
Pointing wins you nothing. Oh, you want to bet that one?
Yeah.
Because you pointed at this one.
No.
You want that one? Ladies first. Here we go.
It looks to our Mark like Jess has just won some money, but remember, she's in on it like everybody else.
One, two, three.
Yeah.
Jess is using her feminine charms to win over the Mark and convince him to bet with her money.
No.
Middle.
That one.
Loser, you got some money?
Cool, yeah,
Anyone
yeah.
else got some money?
Oh,
You got to stay. Yeah? It's your bet?
Great, our Mark is going to play with Jess's money.
Okay, look, watch. Look, watch. 1, 2, 3. That's all I'm doing.
That one there.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, easy.
Hang on. Is she helping you out? Because I said no bets from you.
With Jess's help, the Mark is now a winner.
Shall I give it straight to your girlfriend? Seriously?
Next bet. Go on.
You got some money on you. If you're going to stay, you're going to have to pay. You got some money?
Yeah, come on,
Get your money out. 50, I'll take it 50.
Alex and Jess have hooked him in, and now he's going to play with his own money, £50.
Ready? You ready? I'm going to do it nice and slow. Keep your eye on the middle one, yeah? That's all you got to keep your eye on, that one there. Because that one, that's a loser, all right? This one, that's a loser, all right?
Now it's time for Paul's part in the scam. While Alex turns away to cough, Paul switches two of the discs, apparently moving the spotted disc back to the middle. Our Mark thinks Paul is trying to trick Alex, but in fact, it's all part of the bigger scam to convince the Mark to bet. And it works perfectly. Everybody else joins in and bets as well, so our Mark won't feel so bad when he loses.
Yeah.
Half of you are right, okay? But all of you are wrong. Please. Thank you.
Saw people winning money and you just kind of think, oh, well, I'll have a piece of that. It just kind of thought, it's definitely the one in the middle, it had to be. I thought this guy's giving it away or something. It was like, so easy. You can't win at this game. You know, the guy's an expert. They're all experts, just stay away. I was blagged, big time.
We each have different roles and they're all very different. I'm the operator, I handle the discs, and ultimately I'm the one who's going to have to do the sleight of hand moment. Jessie is used as a decoy. And as a roper, she gets the Mark in, she gets into the right position, which is right at the front of the queue. What she does, which is very important in the very beginning, is she gives the Mark a taste, a feel of what it's like to win money. So she hands the money over for him to bet it for her. Paul is our general lookout man. He's also responsible for the switch. The Mark now thinks that, wow, I've beaten him. I've beaten the Monty man, I can put my money down.
So, what is the secret sleight of hand move behind the Monty scam? Watch closely as Alex throws down the disc with the spot. It looks like it goes on the table, doesn't it? But watch again in slow motion and you can see that in actual fact, he doesn't throw the spotted disc, but throws the top disc instead, leaving the spotted disc in his hand. Watch again as he does the same with the 3 discs. Again, the top disc goes down on the table. But now he repeats the move to hide the spotted disc whilst apparently showing 2 blank discs. So it's not where you think it is, in the middle, it's actually on the left. Our Mark didn't stand a chance.
This is more about deceiving people and getting them to give up property, money or possessions by trick, not by force. It does still occur and there's still people out there that would fall for that, go up close in a small crowd and fall prey to one, the trick itself, but more importantly, pickpockets working around them.
Look, if you walk up to a Monty game on the street, you are walking into a den of thieves. In Monty, it's just a way of mugging somebody without letting them know that they got mugged. And if it doesn't work, they'll mug you.
Our first scam involves bogus postal services who con people out of money for goods they didn't even order.
The postal scam is a really simple way for a group of cheats to raise some easy money. They come to your door dressed as a postman or as a delivery driver. They have a package from some company somewhere that has an extra charge. It may be for postage, it may be cash on delivery, but whatever that charge is, that's pure profit in the cheat's pocket.
We're all preconditioned to react in certain ways. It's what is called social compliance. We look at the uniform, we don't question what that man does. All we see is a postman.
Our hustlers have filled these parcels with cheap second-hand books. They've printed labels with names and addresses found on the internet and are about to discover just how many people will pay to find out what's in the mystery parcel. Paul is wearing a tie containing a concealed camera.
Alex, are you getting a signal?
Yeah, good picture. See you guys.
He's got his homemade fake ID and he's wearing the all-important fake uniform.
Delivery.
He approaches the door of his first target.
Oh yeah. Delivery for Linda Curtis. Yeah, sign for it, that's fine. Yeah.
This man is about to become the victim of a scam. He is now the Mark.
I need this little thing here. There's a £20 charge on that as well, please. So, £20 charge, yeah? £20, that's duty. VAT.
Amazing. The Mark says he's happy to sign and goes to fetch some cash.
You can, if you call the number on there, they'll send you a receipt or they'll email one to you.
Another lie from Paul. He's given the Mark a phone number to call for a receipt, but if he calls that number, all he'll get is a large bill. It's a premium rate line, which goes straight into the hustler's pockets. So Paul made £20 on his first delivery of worthless books. Can he continue his winning streak at this block of apartments? This Mark is not answering the door, but Alex and Jess are on hand and may be able to solve the problem.
Either no one's home or the bell's not working. Can you get that guy's number?
Yeah, I can download it.
Paul? Is that it? I'm going to text you this guy's number.
Hi, is this 1 Allingham Court? Hi, this is Rob Marks. I'm downstairs for TRH deliveries. I have a package for you. I don't think your buzzer's working.
Calling the Mark's home phone number does the trick. The Mark answers the door.
Hi, sorry about that.
I haven't got 20 quid on there.
Is the check okay?
Unfortunately, the man doesn't have the cash. Again, no problem for our hustlers. They are just as happy to take a check.
20 quid.
Make it up to TRH.
TRH.
They really hustle. That's,
Right.
we really run around. Okay, that's it. I need you to sign here. That's okay.
This is all above board.
I would hope so.
Clearly, it's not above board. the mark's been had. Having got his total up to £40, Paul moves on and steps up the scam a few notches. It's not just individuals who fall foul of the postal scam. Many businesses are being targeted too. Paul casually walks into the office of this small company.
Anthony Owen. And there's a £40 charge on that as well.
He's getting cocky now and asking for £40. Surely she's not going to fall for that.
It's fine, I'm only covering this desk at the moment, so...
Oh yes, she is. Unbelievably, she hands the cash straight over. In just a couple of hours, Paul has made £80.
If somebody comes to the door with a package that you can't pay for or that you're at all suspicious about, simply keep the package and tell them to bill you. That way, if they're legitimate, they should have a system in place where they can send you an invoice.
Anytime somebody knocks on your door, you don't know who they are and they're unexpected, if they ask for money, don't give it.
Today, the hustlers are down at the White Cliffs of Dover to show our secret cameras a very devious scam. Jess, Paul and Alex are undertaking a high-risk, high-reward hustle, and their targets are booze cruisers who come off the ferry from France. This is the Customs Sea Scam.
Uniform in this situation is a very powerful tool. The reason for that is if you do stick a customs uniform on and speak with any sense of authority, people are very unlikely to question you. People are very unlikely to start asking for ID and how do I know what you're telling me is true. All that just goes out the window. They just do what they're told.
And that's why the penalty for impersonating a customs officer is so high. It's up to a year imprisonment, so you shouldn't have been naughty boys.
Alex and Paul have pulled into a residential area to do some custom modding to their white van. Due to the dangerous nature of this hustle, they want as few people as possible to see them in their fake customs uniforms. Meanwhile, Jess is acting as their lookout and is scouting for a mark in a car loaded up with booze and any police or real customs officers on the prowl. Jess spots a good hit and calls Paul with the details of the car.
Jess.
Yeah, I've got the mark, it's a silver Polo.
Okay.
The hustle is on. They find the target and trail it for a while, making sure they find a quiet spot away from the port and its authorities before pulling them over. The car they've picked out has a visible load of booze in the back. But as Alex and Paul drive past, they get a pleasant surprise. The car contains 4 nervous-looking lads, top of the hit list of customs suspects. Alex and Paul step out of the van. In their uniforms, they look the genuine article, but they'll need to do this by the book to be believed. Remember, our hustlers are playing out this con in full public view. At any moment, they could be caught out by the real authorities. The clock is on.
Okay. Now ask everybody inside to get some form of ID, passport, driver's license, just about outside the vehicle. Thank you.
Our hustlers understand how customs officials think, and Alex has spotted that 4 likely lads in a booze-filled car were probably stopped by the French authorities first. Alex puts his cards on the table and takes a risk.
And we've been radioed over from Calais. You just come from Calais, yeah?
Yeah.
You were stopped there, I believe, yeah? Customs had a look at you there?
Just said wherever you came from.
Okay.
We've been shopping.
All right, they just asked you a few questions there.
It's paid off. He's absolutely right, and the hustler's cover is now backed up even further.
Well, my colleague and I are going to have a look in the car. Is there anything you want to declare to us now before we do that?
The guys aren't putting up any kind of fight.
All right, anything on you shouldn't have?
Go ahead.
All right.
Volkswagen Polo.
And if they weren't totally convinced, they will be now. Jess radios through and reads out their car registration number for all to hear. It's another slick operation from our trio, and the boys don't stand a chance of seeing through it.
Could you line up over here, please, lad? Thank you. Nothing sharp in here. I don't want to find out the hard way. No?
No,
okay.
Okay.
Paul lines up the lads like a bunch of naughty schoolboys. Looking defeated and doing exactly as they're told, now is the perfect time for our hustlers to strike for the swag. Alex delivers the bad news.
All right, customs have got reason to believe that these goods are intended for commercial use, okay? We have to confiscate these goods, we have to impound these goods and take them to a holding warehouse, okay? What you have to do now is you go back down to customs house, we'll give you the directions, exactly where to go, yeah? There, some officers are going to ask you a few questions. Once they're satisfied that these goods are for personal use, they'll direct you to the warehouse where you can pick them up, okay? Understood? Yeah? All right, we need to get all that stuff out and into the back of that van in front of you, okay?
Quickly now.
So, our hustlers have seized the goods, and to add insult to injury, they've even got the lads doing all the fetching and carrying. It's amazing what a uniform can do, but they need to get a move on and shift them all into the back of the van as soon as possible. The boys have managed to put an enormous amount of booze into their car, and this is taking longer than the hustlers expected. They're running the risk of being caught red-handed at any time. Finally, the last bottles are loaded in, and the hustlers are relieved to have escaped the eyes of the law. You'd think taking hundreds of pounds from right under someone's nose would be a little harder than this.
You go down there now, they should be able to process you very quickly, so the sooner you do it, the sooner you get your stuff back, yeah?
But because they think they're getting their goods back later that day, the boys don't see too much of a problem. They think they're being inconvenienced, when in reality, they're being blatantly robbed. Oh dear lads, you've been well and truly had.
In everyday life, we simply haven't got time to check out every assumption we're making all of the time. So if we see someone in uniform, if we see someone in a police uniform, we assume it's a policeman. So uniforms are kind of shortcuts. They allow us to make assumptions about people. And once we've made that assumption, then normally the person in the uniform is in some kind of position of power to ask us for money, to ask us to do something, whatever. And so we tend to just go along with that. It's an assumption we make. Like most assumptions, most of the time it's true. In the con game, it's used to fleece us.
Incredibly believable, and I was petrified. I didn't know what to do.
I just thought they were absolute and I was just like, what are you doing? And the fact that we had to carry all the booze into the van was just gutting.
We know where customs officers work. They work at the port of entry, or they'll have some sort of official documentation. And if they're not at the port, if they're not in the environment where you would expect them, then make that phone call to the local customs office to check out who they are.
Our hustlers have invited 3 of Britain's top professional players for a televised game of poker.
When we decided to cheat at poker, we wanted to take on the best, and the Hendon mob are the best at their game. Paul and I play poker quite regularly, and we're pretty good. Without cheating, no chance. They would take us down probably every single time. Nothing can go wrong, nothing. Because if you're caught, you're dead.
Meet our 3 pros. They are Joe, the Elegant Beavers. Last year, he won over 140 grand playing poker. Rocky Ross Boatman, an accomplished actor and pro poker player who has won over $500,000 in his career. And Barney Boatman, brother of Ross. Last year he won over 100 grand. They're in a group of players called the Hendon Mob. Alex and Paul are pretending to be amateur players who are taking part in a poker documentary, thus explaining the TV cameras. In fact, both Alex and Paul are not amateur players, but are excellent poker cheats. Paul is an accomplished magician and one of the world's most expert gambling cheats. He has trained for years at card cheating and can literally deal himself any hand he wants, when he wants. This is the Poker Scam. So, the poker game has begun, and they have already played a few hands where the Hendon Mob have been winning. So far the game isn't fixed, but it's about to get more interesting for our hustlers as they introduce their rigged pack of cards. This pack is the so-called cold deck, because it's not yet been warmed up through play.
The simplest way to describe stacking the deck is to just take a deck and set it up so that after the deal, you receive the best cards. So if you wanted to get 2 aces, and there were only 2 players in the game, you simply have to make sure that the second card down is an ace, and the second card after that is an ace. So you deal a card to them, an ace to yourself, a card to them and an ace to yourself.
The Hendon Mob always use their own branded cards, and the cold deck must always match the deck already in use. So, Our hustlers have simply bought an identical pack off the Mob's own website to use as their fixed cold deck. First, they have to get the deck into the room. Cue Jess for the smuggle. She enters the room to take a drinks order, apparently a waitress from the venue.
Any drinks for anybody?
A bit more water would be nice, thanks.
I'll have a Coke.
If we look more closely, we can see that she has a deck of cards hidden behind her notebook. This deck's been pre-stacked by our hustlers, and they need to get hold of it to start playing their fixed hand. Paul's hand is in position, waiting to receive the deck. Will she manage it? Yes, perfect. The cards have dropped safely into Paul's awaiting hand. He is now in possession of the rigged deck. But next, Paul has to get them up onto the table and into play. To do so, he needs to swap the existing deck with the rigged deck in his hand. How's he going to do this? It's time for the switch.
This is where it all started.
Yeah.
Again, Jess is on standby to aid him. She's back in the room to serve the drinks.
And then we started travelling. We were kind of the winners in the game.
Right.
And then we started travelling around Europe, and maybe one or two of us would turn up, and people would say, "Oh yeah, where's the rest of the Hendon mob?"
Right.
Did you see it? If we look again, he's got the real deck in his left hand and the rigged deck in his right hand. As he moves the chair, he's put the real deck on his seat and the rigged deck up onto the table. It was very simple, but very effective. The rigged deck is now in play. Next up is the shuffle. Before every hand, the cards must be shuffled. But the cards have been stacked in the correct order, and a shuffle will ruin everything. Actually, no. Amazingly, Paul isn't really shuffling the deck here. He's using sleight of hand to shuffle, and then return the cards to exactly the same order they started in. This is the hardest part of the whole scam, and a skill that's taken years for Paul to perfect. Now comes the cut. This is a critical move for our hustlers. If the order of cards changes, their fixed hand won't work. Paul's indicated the point in the deck where Alex should make the cut. The moves are all over, but it doesn't mean that things are going to get any easier. The hustlers have to have given the professional players just the right cards. Too high and they might smell a cheat. Too low and they might fold. Just right though, and they'll bet thousands of pounds in chips. As planned, Paul folds. To win the game, the hustlers only need one unbeatable hand at the table. Luckily for Ross, the hustlers have given him a bad hand, and he folds too. But Barney has a jack and a 10, which has very strong potential. Joe has a look at his hand, and does a very good job of hiding his emotions. He's got 2 aces. This is the best hand he could hope for at this stage. Alex takes a look at his cards, and of course he already knows what he's got, a pair of queens.
It's 1,300 on top.
The Hendon mob have just put down £1,300 each, and they've still got 5 cards to see. They've definitely taken the bait. Will the next 3 cards reel them in even more? Now Alex has got 3 queens, Joe's got 3 aces, and Barney Boatman's very close to getting either a straight or a flush, 2 of the highest hands in poker.
2,000. Jesus.
Now it's time for the 6th card out of 7. It's the 2 of spades. Barney Boatman's made his flush. He's got 5 spades. This is where the pro players really show their skills.
I'm all in.
Barney puts down a huge pile of chips to try and scare everyone off.
Yeah.
But Joe and Alex have gone all in too. It's time to see who's got the best hand. It's too close to call. Everyone thinks they've got the winning hand, but if the hustlers have succeeded with their plan, this last card will be a spade and Alex will make a flush, beating everyone at the table. Paul turns over the last card. And as planned, it is a spade, giving Alex a slightly higher scoring flush than Barney and making him the winner. The cheated hand of cards has turned up trumps. Against the odds, Alex the amateurs managed to beat the pros at poker. The Hendon mob still don't know the game is rigged. For the next hand, they smuggled another cold deck onto the table, gave Barney Boatman 4 8s, and beat him with a straight flush.
This is an absolute cold deck. That is absolutely ridiculous. No. No one's going to believe this.
Once the hand was over, the hustlers revealed it was a scam. So, what tips have the mob got to avoid being cheated?
Don't be scared by this programme. There's no reason to be scared. There's no reason to go out and think, oh my God, everybody's cheating. The majority of the time when you play poker, you're playing in a controlled environment. And the best policemen at the table are the players. If you think there's something a little bit dodgy going on, speak up. If the cards haven't been shuffled properly, say so. If someone does a two-handed cut, tell them you want to see them cut again.
If you've got any experience at all, things will happen that are unlikely, that don't feel right. All I can say is that we make our living playing the game, and this hasn't worried us.
Also, anything to add?
Yeah, don't play with these guys. Yeah.
We had an advantage in this game in that it was dealt by the players, so we would get a hold of the deck. If we were playing the Hendon mob in their element, which would be in a professionally monitored poker game, we wouldn't be able to pull these moves.
Hustlers Paul and Alex have hired a nice shiny silver car, but it's not because they fancy going for a spin. In fact, they're going to use it to demonstrate a scam that is catching out unwary car buyers across the country. They start off by changing the number plates to fake ones and removing any hire company stickers from the car and the keyring. They don't want to leave any evidence that could lead back to them after this scam has finished, because this scam is going to leave a lot of people feeling very angry indeed. This is the hire car scam. The guys drop off the car at an empty house they have taken over for this scam. They have put an advert in the paper offering this 12 grand car for £7,500. They're hoping to tempt their mark with the promise of a bargain. Jess is going to be running the hustle. She's playing a young mum who's been dropped in at the deep end. She's brought a box of toys and Alex has left a child's bike in the drive. These props will come into play later. Alex and Paul have done their part for now, and they promptly leave. Someone has arrived to look at the massively underpriced car. We have a mark. Now, you may be thinking that it's impossible for the hustlers to actually sell this motor. After all, they don't have any of the ownership documents, and won't the hire company miss it after a couple of days? Just how does this hustle work? Let's watch it unfold.
My name's Dave. I'll come to see you about the car.
Oh, right, yeah, hi, I'm
Hi.
Jane. Hi, nice to meet you. I'll tell you what, let's go pop get the keys. I'll be out in a second. Okay, do you want to have a look?
Firstly, as Jess goes inside to get the keys, she grabs a baby monitor from the sofa. Remember the box of toys? The bike Alex left outside? These props are being used to set the scene. A young mum, home alone with a child. She can't possibly be a hustler, right?
Oh, yeah, it's lovely.
How long have you had it?
Well, it's my husband's. He got it September last year, so not very long.
Next, Jess mentions a fictional husband, but he isn't around. So where is he? All is about to become clear.
The V5 document again.
I haven't actually got any documents with me because my husband's getting a new tax disc this morning. He's got everything with him in his briefcase. So that's why the whole day's been messed up, really, because he's been called into work. I've got the little one with me.
So the fictional husband's not around because he's gone to pay the road tax. And with the vehicle documents in his possession, the mark has no way of discovering the truth about the hire car. All he can do is take her word for it. The ruse is set. Now is the time for Jess to strike.
But we do have a few more people coming this afternoon, and because, you know, we're wanting a quick sale, basically. It's a great deal. It will go this afternoon sometime. But if you are genuinely interested, what I can do is, if you give me maybe a small deposit, say £250, I cancel the rest of the people this afternoon, because you do sound, you know, interested.
So that's her game. Instead of selling the car, Jess intends to take a deposit on it. Actually, she intends to take as many deposits as she can before the day is out. Jess takes him into the house to take his deposit.
That's for you anyway.
Great, thank you very much.
She hands over a worthless receipt, and that's 250 quid in the kitty. Mark number 2 arrives, and Jess gives him the same spiel.
It's cheap, isn't it? Why is it so cheap?
Because we're just wanting a quick sale. My husband's got a company car now,
And it works. Again, the bargain price entices him into leaving a deposit.
100, did you say?
Yeah, 100.
Jess's total is now £350. The third Mark is also keen.
All right, if I leave a deposit today, when could I pick it up? Obviously, I know you'd have to talk to your husband.
And leaves another 100 to secure the car for himself until 6 o'clock.
There's £100 there.
Jess now has £450. Our fourth Mark ups the ante and hands over £300.
300, did you say, yeah?
Yeah, 300.
Bringing the total to £750.
Yeah, so I'll write you out a receipt anyway.
And Mark number 5 gives her all the cash she has on her, £260. Jess has taken over £1,000 now.
See you at 6 o'clock, yeah? Absolutely, yeah. Lovely.
All the Marks have been told to come back at 6 p.m. to complete the transaction. But the hustlers have no intention of hanging around to meet them. They're off quick sharp to count their cash and give back the hire car.
The price of the car is so attractive that you just can't resist. It's such a nice looking car for that amount of money. How can you not pay a deposit?
It's the greed factor, isn't it?
It is.
You're putting the Mark onto a position where he thinks he's ripping you off because he's getting such a cheap deal.
So what happened to our Marks when they turned up that evening to seal the deal?
By the time they all turned up at 6 o'clock, when I told them to return, me, the money and the car were all long gone.
Yeah, I'm actually here to see him because I put a deposit on it.
Yeah, I put a deposit on the same car.
Yeah, right on as well, £100. Yeah, so I've got a receipt, haven't I?
Do you live here?
No.
I was eating. Oh.
Yeah, see me in. Lynn.
No one's here in the car's not here, right? Do you guys know any?
No, I don't know anybody.
No. We've just come here. I saw the car this morning. I put a deposit on.
Somebody at some point in the scam will push a time element on you. They'll say, oh, well, you need to leave the money now because it might go later. If you start hearing all that stuff and yet you don't have the physical evidence in front of you that the car is genuine, be very wary. Be very wary.
No, I didn't think anything at all. I mean, to be honest, when Jane opened the door and I saw her, she's a lovely looking girl. And the first thing I thought was, whew, you know. And I suppose that did kind of, if it had been like a big 12-stone gorilla there, or 20-stone gorilla, maybe I wouldn't have handed over the £100 so easily.
Jess has hit the streets. She looks innocent enough, but what this guy's about to learn is once you've collided with this lady, you've walked straight into the trap of the Melon Drop.
Why would you just come up from behind me just like that?
The idea of this con is to engineer an accident and convince the Mark that it's their fault. Hustlers are always looking for a new angle, and when they found out that Japanese people were paying more than £40 for melons in Japan, they'd go to the local supermarket, buy a melon, and then bump into Japanese tourists on the street, dropping the £1 melon and claiming that it cost them upwards of £40.
Nowadays, the melon drop can be done using any old object, just as long as the hustler can convince the sucker that it's actually valuable. The prop that we use is a box with some wrapping paper over it, and what we've done is we convinced the sucker that this is actually what's in the box, but once it's broken, this is all they can hear. So actually, it was broken at the very start. We just put shattered glass in there.
You are applying for people's decency. The key element of this is also embarrassment. You're appealing to people to do the right thing.
Jess has positioned herself outside an expensive department store in an upmarket part of town. Our hidden cameras watch on as she scouts for her victims. Tucked under her arm is her accomplice in this scam, the box of broken glass. For this scam to really work, Jess needs to target respectable-looking male marks who she can really work her act on. Watch as she makes her first hit. Here comes the bump.
Ow! Oh my God.
As planned, Jess drops her prop to the floor. Now all she needs to do is convince the mark that they are responsible for knocking it out of her hands.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Oh, please don't be broke. Oh, you've just broken my vase.
The mark can immediately hear the damage. This is the first convincer.
Oh my...
Sorry.
Oh, why did you just come up from behind me just like that?
You just stopped.
Yeah, but what, am I not allowed to stop anymore?
Jess's first key tactic is to create a big scene to make the mark feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. Let's see how she does with mark number 2.
Oh! I can't believe you've just done that.
I didn't do that.
You did, you just walked right past me and knocked out my hand.
I'm really sorry.
Why did you just walk so close to me then?
I didn't mean to walk close to you, I was just walking by.
You did look at all the space, you just bumped right into me and just knocked my vase over.
It's a battle of wills, and whoever can get the other to back down first will have the upper hand.
I'm really sorry. Maybe you can take it back and
I
exchange
can't
it.
take it back, it's broken, can you not hear it?
Jess's aim is to get them to say they're sorry.
Or take it back and say someone knocked into me, can I please have a refund? I don't think
they've got
so.
insurance.
This mark's putting up a good fight. Can Jess talk him round?
Not now, because it's broken.
It wasn't my intention to break it, it was just an accident.
Yeah, it wasn't my intention to stand here and break it either.
Now let's see how she does with our last mark.
Ow! What did you just do that for? You just came out of nowhere. Ow! I can't believe you've just done that.
Look, I feel really bad.
Yeah, but I'm sorry,
Oh my...
miles away. I'm really
I can't believe it.
All the marks have apologised. 1 point to Jess. Now they have essentially admitted responsibility. Jess has got the green light. She reveals to the marks that the vase is a special gift she's bought for her mum. They now know what they've just broken is both important and potentially valuable.
I got this vase from my mum this morning. I need to get this, it's my mum's birthday today. You don't understand how important this is.
Now she mentions that she can't afford to buy the vase again.
What am I supposed to do? I can't just go and buy another one, can I? I can't afford to. I can't afford to go and buy another one of these.
Well, how much was it?
It's £65. I can't go and buy another one. I can't afford to go. It doesn't matter, but what am I supposed to do? You can't just say sorry.
She's looking for sympathy, and of course, it is a hint that she'll need some financial compensation. This leads into the final stage of the scam. It's time to get her hands on the mark's cash. Notice the way she uses certain phrases, appealing to the marks to do the right thing.
Be reasonable. It wasn't just me stood here and then I dropped it. You just walked into me and knocked out my hand. Be reasonable. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have dropped it. Just have the decency to help me out. Oh, now you've just walked right into me. Well, at least have the decency to help me out. Well, have the decency to help me out and help me go get another one.
Jess's last tactic is to become relentlessly demanding and wear the mark's defences down until they finally give in.
I'm late. I need to go get this now.
Well,
so if you've got the cash, I'll just go and get one now. Have you got any cash?
Yeah.
Or does it...
£20.
£20? It cost me 65. It cost me £65.
And so our hustler is victorious, and each mark's offered to stump up part of the cash for her fictional vase.
Look, I think that's pretty generous of me here. It wasn't all my fault, that's half of it, you know? Maybe you should put it in the bag, be a little bit more careful.
Okay, thank
All right,
you.
sure.
Bye. Thank you very much. Be careful next time when you're walking, okay?
Tori,
Thank you.
It was not my fault.
Well, it wasn't my fault.
Well, I mean, I'm really late. It's your fault, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't all my fault, but okay, whatever. Thank you.
In just 30 minutes, Jess has made herself £125. So why were our marks so willing to fall for this scam?
I bumped into a young lady who had a package that fell on the ground.
it broke. She was very convincing, asked me for compensation for her package. I gave her some money.
Walking down the street here, going for some lunch, and suddenly this woman just turned, and this box just fell on the floor, and she says there was a vase in there and broke, and I don't know. I just thought, oh, I'll give her some money for it to go and buy another one.
I heard it. It was, you know, I shaked it, and it felt like a broken vase or something. And obviously, I mean, we are in Knightsbridge, so all the shops around here are expensive, and you don't expect £10 vase or something like this. As I said, I felt responsible, and she was a young, pretty lady. So
This is an ordinary suburban house, and this is the owner of the property, Mrs. E. Hornstein, about to let herself in after a day at work. She doesn't realise she's about to become a victim of crime. The hustlers are about to steal something very valuable from her. No, it's not her car or her cash. They're going to steal her identity. This is the ID theft hustle.
ID theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in this country and globally. In general, what happens is the hustlers get hold of basic bits of information about you. They might get part of your credit card, they might get your national insurance number, anything they can find. Then they use that information to obtain credit, i.e. get loans, credit cards, all in your name. Now, when I say credit, you've got to think about debt, because basically they're mounting debt that you will be responsible for.
The hustlers have collected application forms for loans, credit cards and refinance companies. They are furiously applying for credit in Mrs. Hornstein's name. But how did they get her details to fill in the forms? 2 nights previously, our hustler Paul had the unenviable task of bin rummaging. Under the cover of darkness, Paul finds the alley behind the Mark's house where rubbish is thrown. Having retrieved the bin bags, he starts to perform his dirty deed. He looks for any discarded documents he could use for ID theft. And bingo, it looks like he's hit pay dirt. 2 of Mrs. Hornstein's utility bills have been discarded amongst the rubbish, which, as experts will tell you, is a common way to lose out to ID fraud.
One of the ruses that the criminals use to get hold of this information is to go through your bins. It's not at epidemic levels. I don't want you to think that you know, every day somebody is going through your bins, but it could happen.
If you put any bills, any personal details in your dustbin, there are people going around late at night taking your rubbish away.
After sending the forms off and waiting 2 weeks, our hustlers have now received 3 credit cards with a total credit limit of £10,000 in the Mark's name, Mrs. E. Hornstein. Rather than spending all this money fraudulently and ruining the Mark's credit rating, Alex and Jess are on their way to confront Mrs. Hornstein to demonstrate how shocking this crime really is. They have packed a purse with receipts, documents and the credit cards obtained in her name. At the Mark's address, our hidden cameras watch the action.
Hello. Hi, are you Mrs. Hornstein?
Yes.
Yeah, just found your wallet outside.
Have you?
Is that not your wallet?
That's my name, but it's not my stuff.
We just found it on the floor.
Outside. Oh my God! Somebody's. This is all my name.
Are those not your credit
They're
cards?
not mine.
In fact,
How strange.
Miss Hornstein, I'll be honest with you, we didn't just find it, we actually made it.
What?
Well, we've also made this. This is a loan taken out in your name for £12,000. It's been accepted.
You've made this?
Yeah.
Why have you done that then? Can I get a jumper on? Do you want to come inside?
No, it's all right, we'll wait for you here. I'll show you exactly how we've made things. We use these that we found in your bin. That's got your name, your address. This is another credit card bill.
That's my sloppy husband doing that.
And that's,
I don't throw anything away.
Bank statement as well.
Why is he throwing his stuff away?
So from that, we were able to get credit.
3 credit cards and a loan for £12,000.
Frightening, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
At least Mrs. Hornstein didn't actually lose her money to our hustlers, which is more than can be said for many victims of this worrying crime.
Yeah, because I was refused credit, so I wrote to CNN to find out why. And they sent me a long list, and against variations of my name at my old place where I lived previously, there was about £5,000 or £6,000 worth of debt, because these people that had moved into my flat had actually used my name to open up different accounts. I opened up Harrods account, an Avon account, Grattan's, Freeman's, all the electrical places, and they actually got about £5,000 or £6,000 worth of goods under my name. That I felt like a criminal. When this guy came out and said, you know, you've been refused credit, sort of thing, I sort of said, well, why? Because I knew I wasn't in debt, and you know, so I felt embarrassed and ashamed, really.
You have to be very careful with your own information. If you throw away that slip at the top of a checkbook, that has everything they need to get your bank information from it.
The best way to protect yourself against this scam is to shred absolutely everything. Documents, letters, statements, bills. Never throw anything away, because someone could easily go into your bin and take it, like we did.
Yeah, well, I did.
A pair of ordinary six-sided dice have 36 different ways they can land. Where there's odds, there's always a gamble to be had. And where there's a gamble, there'll always be a hustler. This is the rigged dice rip-off.
Any game where dice are used, whether that's backgammon, Monopoly, anything, I can guarantee you that there is a hustler somewhere who spent hundreds of hours figuring out how to rig that game.
It's not just about loaded dice. Everyone thinks if you put a weight in a cube, then you can use that to win, but you have to be very subtle even with that. You can cut the dice in a specific way so that they roll to certain sides more times than others. You can even take dice that are completely legitimate and roll them in a cup and control them to a desired outcome. This takes a great deal of skill, but if you really want to get the money, then it's worth the practice.
Alex and Paul are on a river tour with some sightseers, but they're not on board for a pleasure cruise. They've come here to prove how a simple dice game can be rigged to a hustler's advantage. This group of punters have been persuaded to play for money. However, they don't know that Alex and Paul are expert cheaters. The game is called Put and Take.
I thought I'd keep losing at this one. Take 4.
Yeah, back in it.
2 dice are rolled. One is marked P for put and T for take. If it lands on P, the player puts money in. If it lands on T, the player takes money out. It's that simple.
Take 4.
The second dice tells the player how much money they are either putting in or taking out. The options are 1, 2, 3, 4 or all. So the best possible roll is a take all, which means the player can take all the stash for themselves. Let's see how our hustlers do.
Whoever gets this is basically one.
Definitely. Take 4! That's the biggest one.
The odds of anyone rolling this are 12 to 1.
Yeah, I'm buying the drinks tonight.
Play goes round and the rest of the players stick in a load more coins into the pot. Back to Paul. What does he throw next? A take all again.
I almost feel like I should apologise, but only almost.
The odds against rolling 2 take alls in a row are very high.
Come on, no, take all, yeah? Come on.
It's come round to Paul again. It's yet another take all. His third take all in a row has beaten odds of 1,728 to 1. The Marks are starting to lose all their coins thanks to Paul's amazing run of luck.
I think it's the way you're rolling it.
Yeah. Do you think? There is like a little thing on here, isn't there?
Surely he can't keep throwing a take all without being accused of cheating.
I did say I was going to get a put all because I had to take all the last time.
Apparently he can, but the Marks seem to think he's just on a winning streak. With odds of well over 20,000 to 1 against that happening, they obviously haven't been doing their probability homework.
Need a take. I'm done.
Why that John out?
It is me out.
2-4.
So, how are the hustlers controlling their throws? If you look carefully at the dice that the hustlers have used, you can notice some of the edges have been delicately shaved like this. Amazingly, this tiny difference in texture causes the dice to rub inside the cup and line up in a winning combination. If they are shaken normally, they will land randomly. But if they are shaken the right way, like this, they'll always give the cheat a winning roll.
Twice. No way.
Which is why the hustlers have been able to empty the pockets of the marks. What did the marks think when we revealed the scam?
It gives you another perspective on gambling, I think, because especially because we couldn't tell really that they were cheating. So, you know, in the light of that, maybe it just highlights the fact that you shouldn't do gambling even more so, because you can't tell if someone's hustling you or not.